And a very good evening to you. Welcome to TV47. This is the Daily Report. My name is Shiksha Arora. Of course, as you join us, well, there's a lot that you are going to be looking forward to on this live program. Tonight, we'll be looking at matters environment. Remember, this is the green fix that comes later on. We also have the big why. The question tonight is, what have you been doing to try and protect the environment? So any changes that you've made in your daily lives, we want to know. Do let us know at TV47 Kenya. That's on Facebook as well as on Instagram. You can find us on WhatsApp as well. At some point, we'll be having the number on the screens. The big why once again. What changes have you made in your daily lives to protect the environment? That is our big why tonight. We want you to engage with us. Remember, any change, no matter how big or small it is, you need to let us know so that we can acknowledge you and, of course, just give you a shout out and a pat on your shoulder for doing that for the environment. What small changes have you made in your daily lives to help the environment? Talk to us. And once again, remember, this is the Daily Report. I am Shiksha Arora. Of course, our sign language interpreter tonight is Catherine Simaloy. For now, though, let's take a look at the highlights. Top on the Daily Report. The Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association of Kenya threatens to suspend SHA services starting Monday, 24th, due to unpaid NHIF arrears.
We deeply regret that from Monday, 24th of February 2025, patients seeking care under SHA will need to make cash payments at private hospitals across Kenya.
Patients now will be required to pay for services in cash. Juja MP George Koimburi narrowly escapes rearrest after a Kiambu court granted him cash bail.
The High Court had already released him on bail. Kamukunji police station disobeyed the High Court and kept him and even brought him here.
In a dramatic turn of events, Koimburi managed to flee on a motorbike. And Kenya stands firm in its decision to host the Rapid Support Forces, that's RSF, who've been in conflict with the Sudanese armed forces for nearly 2 years. What's really at play here? And tonight's top story, the Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association, that's RUFA, has threatened to suspend SHA services beginning Monday 24th due to unpaid NHIF arrears. RUFA says patients will be forced to pay out of pocket to access services. And as Elizabeth Atieno now reports, doctors have also threatened to commence their nationwide strike. That's going to be happening next month. Take a look.
Starting Monday next week, Kenyans seeking services at private and faith-based healthcare facilities nationwide will be required to pay out of pocket following the Rural and Urban Private Hospitals Association RUFA announcement of the suspension of services under the Social Health Authority Insurance Scheme.
This decision has not been made lightly. It follows months of failed engagements, unfulfilled promises, and growing financial distress among hospitals.
RUFA says the 30 billion Kenya shillings historical NHIF arrears has led to massive job losses, stockouts of essential medicines, and delayed salaries to specialist doctors and consultants. This as SHA maintains that the NHIF liabilities are not its responsibility.
In fact, we are aware that the claims for NHIF have been put in a bin and that hospitals are expected to write them off. What we are saying is that, number one, that report by the Transitional Committee needs to be made public.
Additionally, teachers and police officers registered under the Medical Administration Kenya Limited scheme will no longer be able to access services in private and faith-based health facilities under RUFA following 11 months of arrears.
Private hospitals in Kenya will join faith-based hospitals effective Monday in no longer providing care under the Medical Administration Kenya Limited scheme, MAKL scheme, which covers for police officers and teachers.
And as the looming health crisis persists, the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacist and Dentist Union KMPDU has issued a 30-day strike notice to the government as it seeks to protest over the welfare of medical interns. The strike, set to commence on the 18th of March 2025, will be fueled by weekly protests until the medical interns are posted as per the 2017 CBA rates of 206,000 Kenya shillings per month and not the 70,000 Kenya shillings proposed by the government.
We don't only focus on doctors that are working in public hospitals, but from the first day, we have actions that shut down healthcare in both the public and private facilities.
5 billion added to the office of the President and Deputy President for entertainment, for watching movies, for travel. Yet you can't afford 3 billion for the most essential workers in this country.
Elizabeth Atieno, TV47.
And still in matters health workers' unions and associations are pushing back against the government's proposal to merge health regulatory bodies. Now, this decision that was made during a cabinet meeting in January, and while they argue that combining the agencies would disrupt service delivery in county hospitals and compromise specialized trainings for medical professionals, they have given the Ministry of Health a 2-week ultimatum to withdraw the proposal from parliamentary discussions. Now, if their concerns are ignored, they have vowed to go on strike.
The national chair for Kenya Union of Clinical, we know that the Ministry of Health, as we talk, is trying to craft some laws to merge the regulatory bodies so that we are all merged into one regulatory body. And I think from the onset we must say that as the health sector associations and the unions, as the health sector caucus, we are strongly opposed to any merger in the health sector.
We must say that a majority of us who are here today, and all of us starting from the Clinical Officers Council, the Nursing Council, Public Health Officers Council, physiotherapists, among others, including the medical laboratory, we don't and we have never received any funding from the government. We fund our own regulatory bodies.
We are saying that we shall not allow
Now, tonight, tensions between Kenya and Sudan are on the rise once again. Sudan's Rapid Support Forces, that's RSF, unexpectedly cancelled a scheduled press conference, while the Sudanese government has reportedly recalled its ambassador to Kenya, Kamal Gubara. The diplomatic fallout follows Nairobi's recent decision to host the RSF, despite sanctions against the group and concerns from Khartoum about their parallel government agenda. This marks the second time Sudan has withdrawn its ambassador in response to Kenya's stance. George Maringa brings us the latest.
It has been a week that has seen Kenya-Sudan relations feature in the headlines after hundreds of RSF supporters gathered at the Kenyatta International Convention Center KICC, where senior members of the opposition forces, including Rapid Support Forces RSF Deputy Commander Abdel Rahim Dagalo, were in attendance. What followed was an outburst by Sudan Foreign Ministry, which pointed a finger at Nairobi, saying, and I quote, "This action by the Kenyan government not only violates the principles of good neighborliness, but also contravenes the pledges Kenya has made at the highest levels not to allow hostile activities against Sudan to be carried out on its soil. It is therefore tantamount to an act of hostility against the entire Sudanese people." End of quote. Kenya, through the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs and Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, has defended hosting the RSF leaders, arguing that the Rapid Support Forces RSF and Sudanese civilian groups tabling of a roadmap and proposed leadership in Nairobi is compatible with Kenya's role in peace negotiation. Further adding, and I quote, "Kenya has established a history of facilitating dialogue between conflicting parties from neighboring and regional states, including providing good offices that have seen peace agreements signed in Kenya. Indeed, the globally acclaimed Machakos Protocol of 2002 that ended the Sudan II civil war was concluded in Kenya. When Kenya offers this space, it is without any ulterior motives. It is because we believe there is no military solution to political disputes, end of quote. And even as the country's top diplomats work to repair Kenya's image amid negative publicity for hosting rebels from a neighboring country, Foreign Affairs PS Dr. Korir Sing'oei has inadvertently intensified the controversy by adding fuel to the fire. Sing'oei has come under criticism for sharing an AI-generated deepfake video on his official X account, which showcased Kenya's role in Sudan's peace diplomacy. The video, before he deleted it, designed to look like a CNN broadcast, falsely featured journalist Farid Zakaria discussing Kenya's involvement in peace efforts. The conflict in the Sudan continues to escalate, with an estimated 11 million people displaced, most of them children and women. The Rapid Support Forces RSF, alongside armed struggle movements, had on Thursday planned a press conference to be held in Nairobi, which was later cancelled to a later date that will be communicated. Meanwhile, at State House Nairobi, President William Ruto met the opposition holdout group of South Sudan and agreed, at the request of the South Sudan government delegation, that the mediation process that has been going on in Nairobi adjourns until March 2025 to facilitate consultations that will inform the way forward. Analysts have argued that Kenya's actions have been much to the chagrin of international frictions. Who will blink first? George Maringa, TV47, Nairobi.
Moving on, a post-mortem examination on the body of Gilbert Kinyua, the patient found murdered at Kenyatta National Hospital, was conducted earlier today. Now, the findings revealed that he died from excessive bleeding caused by a 3-centimeter cut on his neck. However, Kinyua's family has rejected the report, raising questions about the circumstances surrounding his death and calling for further investigations.
It's still a nightmare for the family of Gilbert Kinyua, a patient who was brutally murdered on his hospital bed at the Kenyatta National Hospital.
Chanzo za hii maneno mahali imetoka sababu kama familia hatujakuwa kwa mwangaza kusema kweli. Na hiyo ndio matatizo tuko nayo kwa sasa.
Kinyua's family does not know where to begin, with the once buoyant optimism that justice will be delivered now descending to pits of despair.
Wenye wanafanya uchunguzi, ningeomba haswa waanze kutoka chini, tujue chanzo za hii maneno mahali imetoka sababu kama familia hatujakuwa kwa mwangaza.
Kinyua, who was admitted to the Kenyatta National Hospital, was found brutally murdered on his hospital bed with his neck slit on February 7th.
Kulingana na matokeo haikuwa kamili kabisa. Sababu kuna vitu zingine ambazo wanadai hajakamilisha uchunguzi lakini hatujaridhika.
According to a post-mortem result that was conducted at the Kenyatta National Hospital, the 39-year-old succumbed to a severe bleeding following a deep cut on his neck that was about 3 centimeters deep.
Wameona kulikuwa na injury kwa neck hapa mbele. It was an incisive wound and it was 13 centimeters wide and horizontal, that is. And also wameona that hiyo kidonda ilikuwa ni sharp edge. Kwa hivyo haikuwa so, ilikuwa kitu sharp yenye ni flat, kwamba kulikuwa na severe wasting of the body na pia mwili ilikuwa na damu kidogo na pia kulikuwa na staining kwa kifua ya Gilbert Kinyua na alikuwa pia na bed sores. Yani alikuwa na vidonda juu ya kulala kwa kitanda ya hospitali for long.
Kinyua's family and a section of rights groups present at the post-mortem exercise have disputed the autopsy results, further urging relevant authorities to expedite on the investigations and ensure that justice is served to their family.
Mambo ya CCTV hiyo hajaguza mahali, kwa hivyo hatuna habari yoyote kuhusu footage ya CCTV. ambayo wao ndio wako nayo kwa sasa. Kwa hivyo hatuna habari kamili, kusema kweli hatuna habari kamili. Kwa hivyo hata postmortem kama imefanywa hatujapata ripoti kamili. Sababu footage sioni kama kuna kitu inafaa wagoje kuangalia kwa kitu kingine. Sinaonekana yenyewe.
Samira Mohammed for TV47, Nairobi.
Meanwhile, allies of former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua in Parliament have launched a scathing attack on President William Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza government. They accuse them of misusing the police and investigative agencies to intimidate dissenting voices. The lawmakers claim that they are being unfairly targeted for their efforts to hold the government accountable and are now demanding clarity on reports of their alleged planning arrests. And as our senior political reporter Elizabeth Mutuku tells us, tensions escalated earlier today outside the Kiambu High Court when the police attempted to rearrest Juja MP George Koimburi just minutes after he was granted a bond extension. Take a look.
We shall overcome. Just minutes after Juja lawmaker George Koimburi was released on 200,000 shillings bail, he faced the risk of being rearrested outside Kiambu courts. This came after he attended a hearing for the previous case, which he had absconded.
Anticipating arrest. But the law provides that whenever...
Following today's hearing, Koimburi, his lawyers and other leaders were prepared to address the media and express their frustrations with the government. Then Koimburi is seen speaking to one of the officers. Then the short conversation was brought to an abrupt ending. Before Koimburi could reach his car, accompanied by his lawyers, plainclothes officers attempted to grab his hand. However, an intervention by his lawyers prevented the situation from escalating, and with no other option, Koimburi fled the scene on a boda boda. While his lawyers insisted it was an attempted abduction.
Arrived here, they revived an old case which the DPP had withdrawn. That particular case, we are willing to handle it. But that does not make us forget the main reason why Mr. Koimburi is in trouble. I want to encourage the honorable member to make a motion on the floor of the House and question the expenditure which went on in African Union campaign.
While back and forth continues over the actual charges facing Koimburi, lawmakers allied to former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua have alleged that the government is executing a well-coordinated plan to arrest them on unspecified charges. They claim this is an attempt to intimidate and silence them.
Lakini ieleweke kwamba hatutabadilisha msimamo wetu wa mambo yanavyoendeshwa kwa nchi, serikali inavyofanya kazi. Hatutabadilisha msimamo wetu kwa sababu ya mambo ya kotini. Na kwa heshima sana tunataka tupewe orodha. Mnataka kushika wajumbe wangapi? Mnataka siku gani? Na ni siku gani mnataka kuwapeleka kotini?
You have changed your mind, including development. You've been telling people lies in the morning, lies in the evening, lies all the time. Mr. President, for heaven's sake. Sometimes I don't believe it is you I was conversing with, I was talking to, I was telling this needs to happen, this needs to happen. These days you don't want to see us.
This case will be heard on 25th February in Kiambu High Court. Earlier on in the day, the Directorate of Public Prosecutions had objected to the temporary release of Juja Member of Parliament, citing concerns that he may abscond court proceedings. In a statement, the DPP emphasized that the legislator will remain in custody until Tuesday, February 25, when the court is set to rule on his bail application. Elizabeth Mutuku, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, tonight, former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua allies in the Senate have become the first casualties of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga's loss at the African Union Commission over the weekend in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. Now, this is after Odinga foot soldiers in the ODM party took over leadership in 5 Senate committees, including his brother Oburu Oginga, who will now head the Energy Committee. Apollo Kamau reports on the country's evolving political landscape since Odinga's Addis defeat. Take a look.
Even as he keeps Kenyans guessing on his next political move, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga's impact in the wake of his return from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, where he lost the AUC seat, has already been felt, having claimed casualties. Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua's allies in the Senate are the latest to bear the brunt after ODM took over 5 key House committees in an onslaught that left Gachagua's allies accusing President Ruto of going against tradition and betraying the Mount Kenya region.
Why is it that you hate your own people? We are the people that elected you. How is it that you are replacing your own people with people who never voted for you? Even if you don't agree with us, myself, John Medu, we have many other sycophants from our region who support you. Why can't you give that seat to your own people?
Among the 5 ODM beneficiaries, thanks to the majority declaration and the broad-based bromance, is Odinga's brother and Siaya Senator Oburu Oginga, who now takes over the Standing Committee on Energy, Migori Senator Eddie Okech, who now takes over Roads and Transport. Also another beneficiary is Mombasa Senator Faki Mohammed, nominated ODM Senator Betty Monitet, who now becomes the chair of Education Committee, and Kwale Senator Issa Jumaboy, who is now the chairman of Trade Committee.
Even Uhuru Kenyatta, when he disagreed with you, he never replaced your people with other people from other regions. When he removed Kipchumba Murkomen as the leader of majority of the Senate, he replaced him with Pogisho, another person from your region. When they removed Kimani Ichung'wah, they replaced him with Kanini Kega. When they removed Susan Kihika, they replaced him with Kangata. Because as a people and as a region, we voted for this government and we are not visitors and we don't beg to be accommodated in this government.
With Azimio yet to agree on who takes over public watchdog committees, PAC and PIC in the National Assembly, usually reserved for the opposition, the cleanup in the Senate came with a rider from Gachagua's men.
If you do not speak now, you're going to be removed from the committees, nothing will happen. They are going to kick out the people from the region, that is from Mount Kenya, or those who supported President William Ruto. And when they do that, this will be taken by ODM. And let nobody lie to you. ODM is in government.
Odinga's allies turned rivals in the Azimio coalition after he joined the broad-based government, led by Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni, want Odinga to rejoin the opposition and reject the Prime Minister's seat being dangled by the Ruto camp.
So this cherry picking is they may want to use NADICO report to manage the country now that they are in disarray. So Wakenya, just be aware that hii mambo yote ni kupangwa tu, mambo ya kupanga, tutapanga kupangwa. Na nafikiri Wakenya sasa wamepita hiyo kiwango ya kupangwa.
ODM is split on whether Odinga will join forces with Ruto in 2027, with ODM Secretary General Edwin Sifuna leading the anti-Ruto brigade in the party. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Now, for the second day in a row, President William Ruto has brushed off criticism over his promises, insisting that while some may dismiss them as jokes, he remains committed to delivering the 750-kilometer Isiolo to Mandera road. Speaking during his engagements, Ruto reiterated that his administration is determined to see the project through, emphasizing that infrastructure development remains a key priority for his government. Take a look.
Sio barabara itoke Mandera, ikuje Ramo, ikuje Gari, ikuje Elwak, ikuje Kobo, ikuje pale Kotulo.
It is the season of viral remixes.
Barabara itoke Mandera, ikuje Ramo.
And this time, President William Ruto is the headliner. From political podiums to Gen Z playlists, Ruto's Barabara chant has taken social media by storm, transforming his development tour in northeastern Kenya into an all-out song battle.
Ikuje gari, ikuje elwak, ikuje kobo, ikuje pale kotulo.
Wednesday, in a raw moment, the president, known for his off-the-cuff charisma, found himself at the center of a viral sensation, so much that he had to stage his own humorous defense.
I would tell you the roads in northern Kenya, the way I would tell you the roads in central Kenya, I would tell you the roads in western Kenya, in many parts of Kenya. And it's because it's my job, you know, this is the job I applied for.
The president insists his Barabara Itoke Mandera mantra is no joke, but a bold statement on his commitment to infrastructure development in the region.
Think about the country, to know what to do, where, and to make sure that no part of Kenya is left behind.
He emphasized that the tarmacking of this key stretch is pivotal for equitable resource distribution and economic growth in the region.
Wangwana wa Mandera hamjambo.
But while some were jamming to the remix, critics were left second-guessing their skepticism.
Mandera, assalamu alaikum.
But don't mistake the rhythm for rhetoric. It is the war of songs and February rendition.
Ikuje elwak, ikuje kobo, ikuje pale kotulo, ikuje tarbat, ipitie hapa Wajia, iende Samatar, itaremuke Modogashe, ifike Isiolo.
TikTok, of course, a place where it's all fun and games, including when it comes to the president as well. He isn't spared either. Now, the government has announced plans to construct a 1,600 fully equipped science laboratory in senior schools nationwide to support students pursuing careers in science, technology, engineering and mathematics, that's STEM. Now, speaking before the Parliamentary Education Committee, that's Principal Secretary for Basic Education, Belio Kipsang, assured lawmakers that all senior schools will now have access to modern science labs by January next year. The initiative aims to strengthen STEM education and to ensure that students have the necessary resources for practical learning. Andreen Kilemi has the details.
The junior schools were supposed to be resourced with a resource center to help the kids who are leaving grade 6, 7, 8, and 9 get introduced to the lab system, because that is the curriculum. But none of these schools have the resource centers.
Appearing before the Education Parliamentary Committee Thursday, Principal Secretary for Basic Education Belio Kipsang faced significant difficulty in explaining how the ministry plans to address the persistent issue of inadequate laboratory facilities in schools that are crucial for students who wish to pursue the STEM pathway.
We are going to construct 1,600 laboratories in these schools starting June.
The committee expressed concerns about the practical implementation of the initiative, especially in schools located in remote areas.
You and I live in this country. We live in this space. We know the resource envelope you're operating within. We know the hardships you go through. 1,600 labs in January. We are in February. That's 9 months from now. Yet we are in March. We still have serious challenges with JSS. But appears kindly come out clean on the same.
Kipsang further assured parliamentarians that by January next year, every senior school in the country will have access to modern science laboratories to facilitate practical learning and experimentation.
You're telling us that you will be able to build from June, that you're going to put up all the 1,600 laboratories in these schools this financial year, this coming financial year, or this year, whatever you say. Is that what you're telling us?
Earlier this month, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki said the Kenya Kwanza government is on course to perfecting the competency-based curriculum.
We now have resources also to provide laboratories for 1,600 schools across Kenya where our children do not have laboratories.
Whether the government will successfully deliver on its ambitious plan is a matter of wait and see, as challenges related to funding, implementation and resource allocation could impact its timely completion. Andreen Kilemi, TV47.
Some good news there when it comes to matters education. Right, with that, it's time for us to take a short break. We'll be back in a moment, but before we take that break, I'm just here to remind you that you can also engage with us on today's Big Why. So we're asking, what small changes have you made in your daily lives just to be able to help preserve and protect the environment? Once again, the Big Why tonight on The Green Fix. What small changes have you made in your daily lives to help the environment? You can interact with us. The WhatsApp number is 0793 267 279, 0793 267 279. We'll also be taking live calls later on. That's 10 p.m. onwards. 0795 045 864. You can call us live here in studio and talk to us and engage with us and tell us what you've been doing to help the environment, how you've changed your life to adapt to climate change, and of course the climate action that follows with climate change. It is very important. Both of us have a responsibility, you and I. So let me know what you're doing exactly to be able to protect the environment. Let's take that short break. I'll be back in just a moment with more. Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer.
Mm-hmm.
We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Welcome back to TV47's Daily Report. I am Shiksha Arora, and later on the Green Fix, we're asking you a very important question. So the big why tonight is, what small changes have you made in your daily lives just to be able to protect the environment? How have you adapted to climate change just so that you can do your bit in preserving the environment? We'd like you to let us know. You can engage with us on social media at TV47 Kenya. That's on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, on X as well. That's TV47 News. Aside from that, you can also WhatsApp us on 0793 267 279. Once again, find us on WhatsApp on 0793 267 279. Talk to us. And of course, later on at 10 p.m. onwards, we're going to be having a very interesting conversation with a lead researcher when it comes to the climate. So she'll be telling us about her findings. She's also a youth advocate for the climate. So that's going to be happening later on. But for now, let's get on with the bulletin. And the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, that's EACC, has intensified efforts to crack down on corruption, focusing on 4 key areas, including tracking public officials who have stashed money in foreign bank accounts. Now, the Commission has reiterated its commitment to strengthening governance and accountability in the country. However, some leaders have expressed concern over the growing corruption crisis, blaming a lack of integrity among some public officials for the country's worsening state. Take a look.
The issue of political leaders and civil servants remaining accountable in their government positions has become one of the most pressing concerns in the country. This as the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC grapples with tackling the persistent challenge of corruption. Recently, the EACC disclosed that some public officials have been hiding funds in foreign bank accounts, exposing a major gap in accountability and transparency.
And these mechanisms include declaration of income, assets and liabilities, management of conflict of interest, management of gifts and donations in public service, operation of bank accounts outside Kenya by public officers, among others.
Issues of poor governance and corruption took center stage during a session organized by the Public Service Governance in collaboration with the Kenya School of Government. Head of Public Service Felix Koskei, who had been invited to shed light on the government's strategies for ensuring good leadership, failed to attend. Naivasha MP Jen Kihara strongly condemned the leadership at the national level for its alleged failure to enforce laws effectively, particularly those targeting individuals demanding bribes. She also criticized the lack of commitment to upholding policies that could benefit citizens.
We know cases are brought in court. There's corruption there. Just the other day it was announced by Justice Leonora that in the impeachment of the former deputy president, the systems went down because they didn't want him to file his case.
If it is against a judge, we have the principal judge, we have the Honorable Chief Justice, but ideally, any complaints should go to the Judicial Service Commission.
The police department, which has recently been in the spotlight over bribery concerns, has emphasized the need for action to be taken against those who offer bribes.
You see, you arrest the person who is receiving bribe, and this other one you sing and praise that person. That's why I say you lionize the giver, you demonize the taker. Where are we headed? That is a serious matter. While you are still on that Telemundo, what is being spoken about, of those officers who are being arrested in such a manner. A criminal is a criminal, whether in uniform or not. But we have our modus operandi in terms of arresting.
The discussion about corruption within the police department comes just days after the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC launched a crackdown on police officers extorting ordinary citizens. The debate on governance has intensified following the growing visibility of corruption, particularly within county governments. This comes in the wake of Bomet County Governor Hilary Barchok being questioned and grilled by the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission over corruption allegations.
But not every morning we wake up, I'm giving water to this village because they voted me, come on, this debate must come to an end. Resources must be equally distributed in the country. We must be correct. in our communication.
The debate about governance comes at a time the issue of corruption is deep-rooted at the county level. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Lower Kabete, Nairobi.
Meanwhile, for years, Suguta Valley was synonymous with conflict, cattle rustling and insecurity. But today, a new dawn has arrived, with peace and unity replacing violence and fear. Residents who were once divided by ethnic tensions are now coexisting harmoniously, and this is thanks to intensified security efforts and community-driven reconciliation calls for further development in the area, which are now growing as locals celebrate the long-awaited return of stability. Here's that story.
The Suguta Valley, the calm observed here is as a result of collaboration between the National Police Service, KDF forces and the National Government Administration. Under the Operation Maliza Uhalifu, the campaign involves significant community leaders from this region and aims to capture criminals as well as provide food, water and medical aid to the residents of this area.
As long as we have these challenges, we'll still somehow have struggle over natural resources, which is one of the key things that fuels the conflict here, leading to insecurity.
And also getting closer to the communities to give them confidence with to give the communities confidence with the troops.
The thing was done in a very good way, that there was no human rights abuses, and it was directly to those people who commit those atrocities. So right now it is targeted, and this is what we have agreed to support the government on that initiative. And we have told our people, you have to be elaborate and say, who are these criminals? The government goes for those ones, and no, there is no way you can hide anybody.
A recent visit to the valley reveals a palpable shift in the atmosphere. For instance, at this Capedo Bridge, security agencies are on patrol at all times, ensuring that those passing through are safe. Perhaps the most inspiring symbol of this newfound peace, children from the two former warring communities are now studying together, something that once seemed like an impossible dream. Moreover, the residents here receive medical care and other supplies, interacting with one another without fear or doubt, bringing a new light of development to the region.
Nakulala do msuri, ana sida. Nakulala shule msuri. Nyumbani ni msuri. Tuko pamoja.
Hata sisi tunaenda kwa manyumba ya Pokot tunalala, hakuna shida sasa hapo. Tuko sawa kabisa.
You can see Pokot, Turkana, they are here together. And also we have seen students from Pokot side schooling in Lomelo, Capedo and so forth.
Viongozi wa makanisa walikuja pamoja, the leadership wanasiasa walikuja pamoja, machiefs walikuja pamoja, wananchi walikuja pamoja, na sasa saa hii ile temperatures ilikuwa hapo awali imeenda chini.
Although the reports are promising, a challenge still persists: inadequate public transport, insufficient roads, and the lack of vehicles, which force residents to depend on security trucks for travel. This not only hinders movement in the area, but also calls for the urgent need for improved infrastructure development in the region.
Addressing the issues of the road, especially the highway from Nginyang to Lokichar. This is a very good highway that connects Turkana and Baringo County, and it is very easy for you to reach other cities. So we need that road to be addressed.
Hiyo tunapata changamoto. Ningeomba tu serikali yetu tukufu itujenge hii shule iwe shule moja kubwa ambayo wanafunzi wanalala ndani. Walale, wasome na kila kitu itaendelea vizuri.
This story of the Suguta Valley peace restoration stands as a testament to the power of unity in overcoming conflict and hostility. Despite the challenges that still persist, the seeds of peace and hope have been sown, marking the dawn of a new era of peace and tranquility, one that paves the way for prosperity.
I'm sure we are going to succeed, and no more of this bloodshed we have been seeing before.
Amani ni mzuri, ni tamu.
Kinto Wafula, TV47.
Moving on, economic and business experts have pointed out that the only way to achieve sustainable economic growth is by leveraging digital technology. Now, speaking at the Mount Kenya University in a conference which was opened by Vice Chancellor Professor Deogratias Jagani, they emphasized the need for entrepreneurs to launch businesses that provide solutions, while also focusing on the training offered on small businesses regularly. And as Ruga Eval informs us, the conference took place at the Mwai Kibaki Conference Hall in Thika. Take a look.
Emerging investors and students from Mount Kenya University have been encouraged to use social media as one of the ways to strengthen their businesses.
SMEs, owners and entrepreneurs embrace technology, invest in digital tools and continuously upskill to remain competitive in the fast evolving business.
This was highlighted in an event that was supported by economic experts who emphasized the great need for investors to acquire this knowledge, the chief guest being Harrison Mutegi, who is the managing director, Elegant Credit Limited.
Training is very critical. Yeah, it's an expensive adventure, but we have no two ways. Because if you do things the same way, you get the same results.
Speaking at the training meeting on economic and investment matters, the Vice Chancellor of Mount Kenya University, Professor Deogratias Jagani, pointed out that traditional advertising methods for businesses have become outdated.
Embracing digital transformation ensure business remain agile and adaptable to future disruptions.
On her part, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Dr. Masi Kamande, voiced concerns about the underrepresentation of women in key investment roles. However, she highlighted that social media and technology now offers women the opportunity to invest with ease.
It is real that the gap is bigger with the ladies, and they are more in need of this training because they do understand their environment.
Alongside invited investors from companies like Unilever, Kingdom Bank and Caritas, as well as other smaller investors, MKU students also praised the event's organization. They expressed appreciation for the valuable insights they gained, which they believe will benefit them as budding entrepreneurs.
I had the opportunity to interact with the outside world, the corporate world, whereby they have been able to mentor us and to teach us on how to interact with the current technology, on how to employ it in our upcoming ideas so that we make sure that we see fruit by the end of it, and how to generate the small income from them to build ourselves and to grow ourselves. So for me, I would say that it was a plus to the students.
Ruga Eval, TV47.
Now, the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs has urged Kenyans in the Democratic Republic of Congo, that's DRC, to exercise heightened caution regarding their security. Prime Cabinet Secretary and Foreign and Diaspora Affairs CS Musalia Mudavadi advised that if necessary, Kenyans should consider evacuating, particularly from the unstable regions. In a statement, Mudavadi expressed Kenya's concern over the growing conflict in the DRC. He highlighted that the violence between security forces and the M23 militant group, which initially began in the eastern DRC near the Rwandan border, has now escalated quickly. Now, human-wildlife conflicts in other news. The cases in Kenya have been a persistent issue since the country gained independence in 1963. Now, the issue of climate change and the growing human population has been identified as contributing factors to the escalation of these conflicts. Tana River is one of the 23 counties in Kenya that face challenges due to effects of climate change, including drought, perennial floods, and also issues of wildlife encroaching on human settlements, that's especially in areas like the Tana Delta. Now, this story was produced by Abdul Aziz Nameka from Tana River and voiced by Stanley Nyaringita, and I hope this brings awareness regarding climate change and its effects here in our country.
This is the situation in Tana Delta, Tana River County. Poverty, high temperatures and perennial floods. all this change of weather patterns being as a result of the impact of climate change.
Wanyamapori wametulemea mpaka hata tunakosa chakula kutoka masambani, hatupati chochote. Maana yake au unawalinda mchana na usiku.
Elizabeth Kamau, a farmer here in Tana Delta, narrates how her 6-acre farm was destroyed by elephants, and since then, no hope for compensation from Kenya Wildlife Service.
Yani ripoti tumepeleka sana. Unapeleka, wewe kazi yako ni kupeleka tu, ni kuandikisha tu, Unangojea, hakuna usaidizi wowote, yani tuseme. Usaidizi uko wapi? Utatoka wapi usaidizi? Na sisi ni wakulima. Kazi yetu ni ukulima, ni kulima tupate riziki.
The increase in both human and wildlife populations alongside lack of sufficient food in the region has led to these conflicts.
Mimi ilikuwa siku hiyo nilikuwa shambani nikidondoa pojo, alafu nikakuta nyati hapo katikati ya pojo amejilaza shambani. Akanigonga, akaniangusha hapo kwa pojo.
Mzee alikuwa shambani, shamba iko na fence. Mzee alikuwa ametoka ajisaidie, akapigwa na nyati.
Elizabeth's journey to get compensation has been difficult given the harsh living conditions in Tana River.
Hakuna fidia ambayo tunapata. Hasara ile ambayo huwa tunapata ni nyingi sana. Maana yake mbegu ni kununua. Madawa ni pesa. Ukija kwanza hapo kwa madawa yamepanda. Bei yake iko juu sana.
Elizabeth is not alone. The family of Joadado from Dume village in the Tana Delta is also crying for justice after their father was killed by buffalo while protecting his farm.
Mzee alikuwa shambani, alikuwa anatoka jisaidia akapigwa na nyati. Mzee siku ya pili akafariki. Na siku ile ambayo amepigwa na nyati wamekuja wakaona yote tekeo, wakakaa akatupatia pole, kutoka tupatie pole mpaka saa hii manyamaza kimya. Na sasa tunapata shida.
Ali Joadado, the son of the deceased, says they have continued to face hardships due to the loss of their father.
Na mzee ameacha watoto 8, sasa sisi tunateseka sana. Kutoka hiyo mzee apigwa na nyati, sasa hivi mnyamaza kimya, hatujui hiyo haki yetu tutapata lini sisi. Ukweli tunateseka sana.
Hassan Hamisi is another victim who was injured by wildlife and still bears scars from the attack, now seeking justice after he was injured by a buffalo while on his farm.
KWS wanifanyia haraka mambo yangu, maana mimi niko na family, niko na watoto wadogo sana. Na mimi sijiwezi kwa saa hii. Nina miaka 5, nimeambiwa nisifanye kazi yote ngumu kulingana na madaktari vile mnyama ameniumiza. Hata hivi mwendo wangu ni shida sana. Hata kula kwangu wenyewe ni shida.
Despite the loss of life, damage to farms and killing of livestock by wildlife, it has been noted that some people venture into wildlife areas to hunt for meat and survive, often getting into trouble with the law. Kuno Guyo from Feji village was sentenced to 2 years in prison after being caught with bushmeat.
Hiyo siku nimechukulia nyama ya mtu mwingine na yangu nikabandikizwa kilo 25. Baada na ikiwa nimeshikwa na digdig wawili mimi nikabandikizwa hiyo. Tukapelekwa mahakamani saa 3 asubuhi. Baada ya kufika kule tulisomea mashtaka. Tukakubali tukiwa watu 3 sisi. Baada ya kutoka pale siku ya pili nikaambiwa niitishe statement. Uitishe statement yangu alikataa. Tukarejeshwa tena mara pili kotini siku ya pili. Kufika mara pili kotini tulionyeshwa, tukaambiwa kila mmoja akasomea mashtaka, wakakubali wenzangu, mimi nilikuwa ni wa mwisho. Nikaamuka nikaulizwa mbele ya hii meza, vitu mlikuwa nazo ni sawa ama sio sawa? Mimi nikasema sio sawa.
Tana River Senator Danson Mungatana has urged the Kenya Wildlife Service KWS officers to take responsibility and manage the wildlife properly and find lasting solutions to human-wildlife conflicts.
Bwana DG, what are you doing in Nairobi? Toka huko Nairobi kuja hapa Tana River uone vile mambo iko. Come to the ground. Uone reality vile watu wanaumia. We appeal for very quick action now. Hatutaki promises. We appeal for urgent action. Come and transfer these animals from here.
In April last year, the government launched a compensation program for families that have suffered injuries, deaths, or loss of property and crops caused by wildlife.
Tumekubaliana ya kwamba vile nimesema hapa, ndani ya siku 60 wale wote ambao wamefanyiwa assessment na wamefanyiwa verification, watu karibu 7,000, tutawalipa pesa yenu ya fidia ndani ya siku 60. Ndio tuhakikishe ya kwamba tunaweka uhusiano mzuri kati ya wananchi na mbuga zetu za wanyama wa pori na wanyama wa pori wenyewe.
As the world continues to implement measures to mitigate and adapt to climate change impacts, experts are urging comprehensive strategies and collaboration among stakeholders to reduce human-wildlife conflicts in Kenya.
An insight into the human-wildlife conflict here in the country, and something definitely needs to be done, because for the next few years things will not be easy. It will not get easier unless we take an active effort to make a difference. Now, speaking of making a difference, remember, right here on The Green Fix, we try to look for solutions, we try to have these conversations, and we try to engage you on what you are doing to be able to impact the environment positively, to be able to take care of Mother Earth, of planet Earth. So what small changes have you made in your daily lives to help the environment? That's our question on The Big Why. You can interact with us on WhatsApp. That's 0793 267 279. Send us your thoughts, send us your opinions, send us your answers. We'd really love to hear from you. Once again, The Big Why tonight is, what small changes have you made in your daily lives to help the environment? They could be positive changes. For example, I personally, when I'm taking a shower, I don't leave the water running for the entire duration of the shower. So I keep it on, and then I apply soap, and then I turn it back off. And then when I'm done applying soap, I put the water on again. I turn on the tap just to be able to conserve water. So what are you doing? We'd love to hear from you. The WhatsApp numbers are, of course, 0793 267 279. So that's going to be coming up later on. We also have a very interesting conversation with a researcher who is going to be telling us about some of her findings when it comes to climate change and what she is doing to impact the communities in marginalized areas as well, like Kibera. So that's going to be happening later on. But right after this short break, we'll be getting into sports and business. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. Let's take that short break. Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth, as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Welcome back. Now let's delve into matters business, where Kenya's power transmission company, that's KETRACO, has officially brought on board 2 private investors. That's India's Power Grid Corporation and Africa 50 to bridge the gap left by the controversial Adani Group. KETRACO's CEO and Managing Director, Engineer John Mativo, emphasized that the government cannot solely shoulder the financial risks of expanding the national grid infrastructure. He noted that with power demand now peaking at 2,360 kV, private sector involvement is crucial for ensuring a stable and efficient energy supply. Take a look.
In a bid to spread the risk of maintaining electricity infrastructure, the Kenya Electricity Transmission Company KETRACO has secured 2 primary investors to cover nearly 1/3 of its financial needs over the next 2 years.
The cost of projects, KETRACO has done projects from 2008. Up to now, we know the cost of everything. We know the cost of wages. We know the cost of taxes. So we're on top of everything that is there. Now, what we remain with, as Msuka said, the project costs are pass-through costs. The cost of debt, it gets money from a term sheet and supplies it. So the hard work is to get, one is equity negotiate.
This after the Indian Adani Group deal tanked, forcing the transmission company to revert to other potential investors, maintaining the public-private partnership plan.
2/3 of the grid, currently KETRACO has more than 6,000 kilometers of transmission line. Kenya Power has 3,400. By the end of this year, we'll add another 600 to ours. So we're getting to a point, by December, we might own 70% of the grid and they owe only 30% of the grid. And you can actually see us doing more and more transmission lines and them not doing anything. So the government thought it wise, economics of scale, it actually makes sense for one company to run the whole infrastructure. That's the whole thing, and it only makes sense that it comes over to KETRACO so that we do nothing from morning to evening apart from transmission infrastructure. so we can focus in terms of our core business.
This comes at a time when KETRACO is taking over a majority of transmission assets from Kenya Power, with a takeover of 2/3 of the assets set to increase to 70% of the grid by the end of the year. Hibak Said for TV47.
Now moving on, East Africa has introduced a regional country bank model that's CMB designed to bridge financial gaps and drive digital innovation in the banking sector. The initiative aims to enhance financial inclusion and simplify cross-border transactions, promoting seamless business to customer relations. Dr. Walter Onyino, the ICT director at the Central Bank of Kenya, stated that regional banking integration will not only boost financial accessibility, but also enhance business growth across East Africa. The model is expected to empower local businesses by fostering smoother and more efficient digital banking services.
Our regulatory measures have been pivotal in supporting digital banking and fintech innovation, and we remain open to fostering more inclusive financial ecosystems. Technology will continue to play a critical role in the evolution of banking.
I know in Kenya we sometimes are very spoiled because we have good speed in terms of internet, but that's not the same across multiple territories where there's more rural aspects of lack of infrastructure, and that's becoming more and more apparent, but banks are now seemingly going directly to customer. Agency banking is a critical area of investment to make banking services available.
And that was the business news tonight. For now, let's get sporty.
Sports news brought to you by Maybets. Join Maybets leo upate free bet papo hapo. Fanya hivi, chagua home team to win, yani number 1, au draw X, au away team 2 kwa game ya siku ya free bet. Weka namba yako ya simu, weka password ya account yako. Chagua submit free bet. Utapata free bet kwa account yako ya Maybets. Usisahau kuverify account yako. Kama hutakuwa verified, utapoteza free bet yako after 2 days. Betting is strictly for 18 years and over. Play responsibly. Terms and conditions apply. BCLB number 0000578.
Maybet na minia na najishindia. Pesa inavutia, pesa inavutia.
Right, top in sports news, round 1 of the much-awaited Magical Kenya Golf Open teed off today at Muthaiga Golf Club, with some of Team Kenya's players registering excellent results. Our sports reporter Nzuki Allen spent the day at the eye-catching golf grounds in Muthaiga and gives us a roundup of Team Kenya's performance and what to expect in day 2 of the action-packed Magical Kenya Open that continues tomorrow.
Round 1 of the highly anticipated Magical Kenya Open teed off on Thursday morning at the elegant Muthaiga Golf Club, nestled in the heart of Nairobi, the city under the sun. Paddy John ended the day top of the leaderboards with a solid 63 points, while seasoned local professional golfer Riz Charania led Team Kenya with 69 points.
7 was actually a 3-putt, so that was quite unfortunate. I just lost focus for a second there. On 14, I actually hit quite a poor second shot, which led to the bogey, but I'll take it. I mean, for the first round, I'm still in the tournament, so I'll take the score for sure. There were not many mistakes today.
Charania was followed closely by his compatriot Daniel Nduva, who kicked off his campaign with a solid 1 under par 70 in the opening round.
It's good to get off to a good start, makes you feel good. Just kind of removes a little bit pressure off your back. Right now I just want to go back to the range, hit a few balls, then come do some putting and chip in, then call it a day.
Seasoned Kenya amateur golfer Michael Karanga showed off his class with a brilliant 72+1 performance, while Adel Balala, Snow Greg and Mutai Kabugu followed in closely.
My day 1 was a bit scrappy from my perspective. I hit it good off the tee,
I really struggled on my second shots. I normally hit a fade and I just couldn't cut the ball today. So yeah, I'm going to work on that on the range. And yeah, I know tomorrow will be a good day.
Struggling with experience, Kenya's amateurs had a rough day in the office, but will be on the hunt for a better performance on Friday.
I think for me, I'll go to putting green. I'll just one or two things. Then tomorrow I'll push it. I don't have a target for tomorrow, but I'll push it.
Team Kenya players delivered an excellent performance in day one of the magical Kenya Open and will be on the hunt for more glory tomorrow in day two of this prestigious tournament. Nzuki Allen for TV47 Sports.
Now in football, Kenya's national women's football team Harambee Starlets will host Tunisia tomorrow in the first leg of the Women's Africa Cup of Nations WAFCON 2026 qualifiers at the Ulinzi Sports Complex. The Beldin Odemba-led side has been rigorously preparing for the crucial clash as they seek to reclaim their place on the continental stage, having last featured in the tournament in 2016 when they made their debut.
I feel we are ready for tomorrow game. Now we have the last practice today. Of course, the weather conditions is different than we used to, but I'm really feeling ready for tomorrow.
I hope we have a good match against Kenya, but is good with power player. We have a half time here in Kenya and the second in Tunisia. We must be good.
Hii game si rahisi na si ngumu, but tunaitake kama hizo game zingine. Juu qualification ni very hard. So tutajiprove wenyewe na tuko ready, tuko tayari. Tunajua tuna win.
It is important to collect maximum points at home and even away, but it is important for us to win this match at home because most of the time you don't know the conditions you're going to meet when you go away, but at home you always know what to expect. You've always enjoyed your weather, you've always enjoyed your crowd, so it's good for us to make sure that we win this match at home.
Now, Football Kenya Federation FKF Premier League leaders Police FC suffered a 1-0 defeat at the hands of Mathare United in their matchday 22 fixture at Dandora Stadium. Mathare's Paul Kinyanjui struck a dramatic last-minute winner, denying Police FC a crucial point in the title race. Meanwhile, defending champions Gor Mahia settled for a goalless draw against Bidco United in a tightly contested match.
So kitu kwanza nina furaha kwa sababu ya hizo alama tatu. Ndani na usajili wenye tumefanya katika second leg. I think pia inatupatia motisha. Na pia la pili nina furaha kwa sababu opponent wale and especially second half amekuwa so direct. So na I think mahali pia nimetoka nilipata the same kind of football. So I think haikunipatia matatizo kuprepare kwa timu zote mbili kwa sababu nikiangalia game ya Polisi na Bidco again walikuja hivyo wakakuwa tu direct na vijana wangu they knew what to do katika wakati huo. I think hiyo bao pia imetoka na wakati wa transition.
The best team has won. Na pongeza Mathare, they played well. Walikuja na program nzuri ya kutu maintain. Nikiangalia hata gisi mechi imekuwa tulideserve kufungwa hata zaidi ya moja. Walipata nafasi nyingi, kipa wetu ka save sana. Hatukuwa clinical, tulipata nafasi ziko clear kuliko wao. We miss, so wao walikuwa ku maintain. Kwa hiyo nawapongeza the best team. Walikuwa ni siku yao, si hatukuwa vizuri leo.
Sports News brought to you by Maybets. Join Maybets leo upate free bet papo hapo. Fanya hivi, chagua home team to win, yani number 1 au draw X au away team tu kwa game ya siku ya free bet. Weka namba yako ya simu, weka password ya account yako, chagua submit free bet. Utapata free bet kwa account yako ya Maybet. Usisahau kuverify account yako. Kama hutakuwa verified, utapoteza free bet yako after 2 days. Betting is strictly for 18 years and over. Play responsibly. Terms and conditions apply. BCLB number 0000578.
Maybet na minia na najishindia. Pesa inavutia, pesa inavutia.
All right, this is now the time that I've definitely been waiting for. I've been quite eager to get to this particular part of the bulletin because this is where we talk about matters environment, about matters sustainability, about matters climate change, and that's what is of utmost importance right now. So let's dive directly into Green Fix. And remember, I've been talking about the big why. Now, in case you've just joined us, well, this is what the big why is. Every week, we're going to be asking a question that is quite important when it comes to you and I. So this day, tonight, we are asking you, what do you do in your daily lives just to be able to protect the environment? What is the smallest of things that you've changed in your life, in your daily lives, to be able to protect and conserve and preserve this environment that we live in? We'd like you to interact with us on WhatsApp. That's 0793 267 279. You can send us a quick message. Don't forget to leave your name and answer the big why. Once again, what small changes have you made in your daily lives to help the environment? We'll be airing your feedback later on. So that's going to be happening in a short while. But for now, we also have the latest in the world when it comes to the climate. So let's get right into climate news. And our top story tonight in climate news, more than 250 African city leaders, including mayors, city officials, national policymakers, please excuse my diction, investors and business leaders that gathered in Nairobi this week for the Green and Resilient Urban Shift Africa Forum, funded by the Global Environment Facility, that's GEF, hosted by C40 cities and also supported by UN Environmental Program, that's UNEP. The World Resources Institute as well was supporting this particular forum, that's WRI. Let's take a look at what exactly happened during this forum. As Africa's cities expand at an unprecedented pace and with 92% already classified as being at extreme climate risk, the Urban Shift Africa Forum marks a decisive moment for resilient urban planning, sustainable investment and climate action.
Despite the fact such a small proportion of greenhouse gas emissions come from Africa, 4% or so, some of the impacts are biggest here. The ones that are most being talked about in the forum here, heat, and in particular how that affects people's ability to work outdoors, which is a large part of economies across Africa. Drought, but at the same time having extreme flooding, so huge amounts of water that come very suddenly, and then difficulty to keep and control that. And that general kind of focus on how to be more resilient in the face of what we know is going to get a much more difficult situation with the climate, whatever we do now.
And in comparison with other African cities and African countries, Kenya actually has the complexity of having so many different climatic zones, making, for example, cities like Nairobi and Mombasa are very different. Kisumu is very different as well.
Bringing together stakeholders from various countries, the forum set the stage for African city leaders to issue an open letter to African finance ministries, calling them to expand access to sustainable finance, establish robust frameworks for municipal finance, as well as mainstream climate and urban priorities into national budgeting and planning.
Beyond that, we have, through our climate change mainstreaming strategy, supported by C40's Climate Action Implementation Program, we have begun a journey to fully incorporate climate considerations into our policies, plans, and programs throughout all the sectors that we run as the city of Nairobi.
From Kisumu's point of view, we are in a county that is on the lake, Victoria, which is an advantage in terms of access to certain resources and also in terms of doing things that will respond effectively to climate change problems.
With Africa projected to drive the majority of global urban growth in the coming decades, the forum sessions, which began on Monday and conclude on Friday, are set to focus on resilience, urban planning, and securing the financing required to build thriving, resilient cities for future generations. And still in climate news, imagine this. You get to exchange the trash around you for money, and most importantly, you clean the environment. That's a reality for locals of Aneho town in West African country of Togo through the Moi Je Trie initiative. Residents here bringing outdated and unnecessary items to the EcoBox kiosk with manager weighing and sorting collected waste according to its type. That's plastics, metals, papers, and as well as electronic waste. EcoBox kiosks are located across the town, and collected waste is now transported to a storage facility where it actually undergoes more thorough sorting. The organization now collects almost 5 tons of waste per month, with 20 to 30 kg coming from electronics and solar. According to the head of operations for the initiative, Parfait Agbetoso, they have launched the recycling of all electrical and electronic waste. This year, the Moi Je Trie initiative was reportedly launched by Africa Global Recycling with financing from the Togocom Group in 2021. Right now, a massive wildfire continues to spread through the Lanín National Park, located in the province of Neuquén in Argentine Patagonia, posing a severe threat to local biodiversity and the safety of nearby communities. Now, helicopter footage released by the Argentine army on Tuesday revealed vast columns of smoke, as you can see on your screens, rising above thousands of charred hectares in the wilderness, according to the latest government report. Over 22,000 hectares have already been consumed by the fire, and the cause of the fire, which began on 14th of February, remains under investigation, with experts speculating that the combination of record high temperatures and strong winds may have actually fueled it. In response to the crisis, local authorities have issued health alerts and ordered preventive evacuations in high-risk areas, including San Martin de los Andes and Villa La Angostura Lanín National Park is actually home to a rich diversity of flora and fauna, including endemic and endangered species such as the hummel, a rare South American deer. Now, to wrap up our climate news globally, marine experts have given up hope of rescuing more than 150 false killer whales that were stranded on a remote beach in Australia's island state of Tasmania. Now, footage that was filmed on Thursday shows several whales lying and lined up on the stretch of the beach's shore. Some marine and wildlife experts from the Department of Natural Resources and Environment, that is Tasmania, Tasmania, on Thursday were also seen assisting survivors on their return to the ocean and also assessing the condition of the other stranded animals. Now, according to the marine experts, the whales will be left in place to decompose naturally. Initial findings from the department showed that there were 136 survivors on Wednesday morning, but further assessment led to the revision of only 90 whales. Experts cited inaccessibility of the beach and ocean conditions and challenges to getting specialist equipment to the remote area were issues for rescue and conservation efforts. The department has advised the public to avoid the site as the Tasmania Park and Wildlife Service also announced the closure of roads and the beaches in the area. Some devastating stories right there when it comes to climate change and the effects of the climate in the world. So I hope you really do pay attention to these little things that will make a difference to your life as well as mine and for the generations to come, just to be able to preserve the ongoing climate change that is currently affecting human beings as well as animals as well as marine life all over the world, and to try and make a bit of a difference in reducing as well as stopping the climate change adverse effects that we are seeing. Right, with that, the question today that we're asking on the Big Why is very simple, right? What are the small changes that you have done in your lives, that you've made in your lives to be able to help the environment? What small changes have you made in your daily lives to be able to help the environment? You can WhatsApp us on 0793 267 279. You can also call us live on 0795 045 865. We'd actually really love to hear from you. Please do engage us on social media as well. Once again, what small changes have you made in your daily lives to help the environment? We'll be sampling some of your feedback later on, but for now, let's take a short break. We'll be right back with that much awaited interview with a researcher who has some very interesting findings when it comes to climate change. Is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upward, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
All right, welcome back to the Green Fix. And now let's get right into that interview where I engaged a youth advocate as well as a research associate with regards to climate change when it comes to the findings that she had, some of which were very interesting, by the way. You'll get to listen to her yourself. She is very passionate about the environment. She's also written an open letter in the past when it comes to how to care for the environment and how to be able to be a part of this ongoing fight against climate change. So let's get right into it so you can watch this very interactive and interesting interview by yourself. All right, so tonight on the Green Fix, I'm going to be speaking to a youth researcher. Her name is Juliet Oluoch. She is the research associate at Ustawi Analytics. She is taking on a job that is quite heavy, if I may add, and I'm going to be telling you more about what she does on a day-to-day basis, what her life is like, and we'll be asking her how she has a role to play, a huge role when it comes to the findings that she has been researching over the years, and yes, what exactly she's doing to mitigate the climate change that we are seeing over the years. You know, there's a huge threat that climate change poses to the human population. So how exactly is she trying to mitigate that by involving the younger generation as well and trying to make sure that the youth are pretty interested in what climate change is and simplifying that message? So yes, let's get right into it. Hi Juliet, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Juliet. Of course, we really appreciate you, the fact that you're here and you're going to be talking to us about things that we believe are very important, and which is why every Thursday on the Green Fix, we like to have such conversations. So maybe you can start off by telling us exactly who Juliet is and what you do for a living.
I am a research associate. Currently, I work for Ustawi Analytica. It's a research think tank that works in Nairobi, but is also based in London. And our researchers draw from a team of experts in Cambridge and also in Nairobi. So I serve as a research associate for that organization, but I also volunteer with a number of organizations. I volunteer in the UNICEF as a regional advisory board member for Africa, and also I work closely with C40 cities as a member of the Global Youth and Mayors Forum.
You know, looking at you, you're so young. How does that work in terms of research? And did you ever see yourself getting into research, especially because you seem to be the youngest? So when you first entered in this field, how was that experience for you? Was there a bit of a culture shock because you are predominantly probably one of the youngest researchers that I've come across.
First of all, I wasn't planning to get into research. It was purely a coincidence. I, for the longest time, considered myself a climate activist, and there's nothing wrong with climate activism. But then my mentor, who introduced me to research, then told me, what is your source of evidence? Right. And so that drew a lot of curiosity on my side, and I wanted to know, what is this about evidence? So that's how I found myself in the world of research. Was I the youngest one? Absolutely, very young. So I got into this at the age of 21, and I was working for a different think tank called the Africa Research and Impact Network. And at that point, I was 21, and I think the next youngest person was probably 58. And most of the time, research think tanks don't really employ just fresh graduates, because I mean, it's research, that's something serious. Yeah. And at that point, I wasn't even qualifying as an early career researcher. So it was just out of curiosity that I found myself in this space. And thanks to my presence in that space, at least now we have many think tanks absorbing young people, not maybe as young as I am, yes, but at least it's a step in the right direction.
So when it comes to climate change, how exactly do you get young people to actually take action, to be able to be involved in this climate change initiatives, especially in marginalized communities? And we do know that the youth is predominantly the largest population in marginalized communities. What exactly were you doing for them to be able to take action and to be able to adapt to climate change, as well as just to be sustainable in their means and the way they live?
I have been working on research in urban sustainability, but also focusing a lot on children and climate change. So one of the most recent research that I did with UNICEF Kenya was when we were formulating the children climate disaster risk model, and we were looking at the vulnerabilities and exposure indexes of children to different climate hazards. Yes. And one of the things that I took away from that is we lack awareness when it comes to climate change information and communication. Not many people know about exposures and vulnerabilities. Not many people are able to kind of differentiate what is an exposure, what is a vulnerability, and how then are they supposed to respond in both scenarios. So that's the one thing that I think we need to work on. And because of that, I founded URN, which is Ufanisi Research Network. And we work to decolonize research in the sense that we want to break down these exposures and vulnerabilities without losing the science part of it, to enable people to be able to absorb that information and apply it in their various contexts. Number two, I think, is the question of South-South research connections has been missing. In my former organization, I pioneered a fellowship program with over 200 researchers across Africa, and we're bringing together these people to have a peer exchange platform where they can talk about science, where they can research and exchange ideas. That is largely missing in the continent, especially, and it is also something that I feel we need to really advocate for. We need to talk about more South-South research connections. And lastly is multi-sectoral collaboration. Climate change cannot be solved in isolation. Yes. Coming from a research space, I need to work with policymakers. At the end of the day, they are the ones who make these decisions. So we need to engage all these different kinds of people and with diverse opinions in climate change conversations.
You served as the Deputy National Coordinator at the African Youth Initiative on Climate Change, Kenya chapter, to ensure that climate change isn't boring. What are some of the things that you did just to put the message across for the younger generation? Because sometimes climate change can be a bit boring, quote unquote. So to make it more relatable, what exactly were the things that you did to get them involved and to pique their interest?
Thank you so much. So in my tenure, which has apparently ended as a Deputy National Coordinator, I found very innovative ways to communicate climate change information as opposed to the traditional, panels and all of that. So we did that through music. Number one, we did a lot of events with Alliance Francaise, and we were inviting artists to compose poems about climate change, to compose music about climate change. And this is different to different locations. In Nairobi, we do Sheng, and when we go to the northern counties, we also use a method that works for them. So number one, the one thing that I did, first of all, was to ensure that we are communicating climate change information in a way that is attractive to a younger generation, in a way that, makes them feel it is actually relatable. Because, the climate crisis is interesting. It is something that affects everyone, So it also affects populations that are illiterate. But then you can't go around and telling them about climate change when they haven't, you don't have that type of climate literacy. So we looked for these avenues to kind of break down this information to them in a way that they can consume it, but also provide solutions. We also did a lot of blogs in my tenure. We have them on our website, and you can refer. These are blogs that have been done by young people from different parts of Kenya, and we post them there to inspire more people to continue to talk about climate change, share their stories. And we also had intervarsity debates. We did with the African Nazarene University, we did with the University of Nairobi, we did the Kenyatta University, and this is number one to break the jargon around climate change. So our debates are very simple, but then they were very targeted in trying to communicate a different aspect of climate change in each session.
In layman's language, we are fighting something that is very broad. A lot of people don't really understand the threat that climate change has on the human population. Here in Kenya, we have seen widespread droughts, we have seen floods over the last 2-3 years. So maybe you can simplify it, because here on Green Fix, we like to simplify the message, and also we like to ensure that our audience relates to it, because we do have quite a younger audience. So what is the threat that is in front of us that is posed as climate change?
I'll answer that by sharing an example of an activity that I did in Kibera slums. This is future visioning. So this is whereby we called the young people, and of course it was not just the young people, but we had different sets of populations, children, young people, old people, and so forth. And we were asking them, what would Kibera look like for you 30 years from now? And then we also asked them, what was Kibera looking like 5 years ago? What is it looking like now? And now these people gave us, answers like, we used to have cleaner air, but now there's, waste is not being collected, so the air is more polluted. And now we are able to tie this and explain to them that what you're actually saying has everything to do with climate change. So this is trying to, I don't want to say, try to make indigenous knowledge scientific, but really trying to find the links, because what they are explaining is actually science, but they do not have the language of putting it into that scientific context. So that is one thing that has worked for us. We do a future visioning scenario where we draw a river of life, and in that river of life, we try to look at what was it like in the past, what are we dealing with now, and what would we want to see for the future. And then lastly, how do we get to the future? We ask them, what are you already doing, and how can we support you? How can you work together to improve whatever it is you're already working on?
How do marginalized communities respond to climate change, especially when it comes to mitigation? You've mentioned Kibera, and what initiatives have you been taking upon yourself just to be able to ensure that we aren't really leaving them behind just because they don't have resources and they aren't, in terms of innovation, in terms of technology, they aren't there yet in comparison to the Western world, in comparison to obviously the capital city, Nairobi, as well, when it comes to the private sector. So just to make sure that they aren't left behind, what are some of the things that they do in their day-to-day lives just so that they are able to do their bit in the capacity that they have to mitigate climate change?
Different populations react differently.
Yeah.
And we did a section of Kibera, and we had, within just a small section, we had very varied opinion when it comes to response. So one thing that I would point out is communities appreciate when they take part in the initiatives themselves, and when you build on the ways in which they are already coping rather than reinventing the wheel. So one thing that we did was flood and fire modeling for them, and that was to help them with the fire disasters that were very common. We built a road within a section, and this we did with partnerships with so many organizations. It was not done in isolation, but then we realized they were already trying to find their own solutions. For example, there's a section of Kibera that had frequent fire outbreaks and everything. Yes. So they figured that if their structures are built in like one block and they are next to each other, it's easier for the fire to spread. So what then they did was they tried to do a little bit of spacing and let the spaces be paths. What the threat is, it's really, we are fighting for our life. It's a matter of life and death, to put it in plain layman's language. Don't think of climate change as a big buzzword, but it's the little things. When you start struggling to produce your food in a place that was previously productive, and you try to interrogate and you find out it's human activities that are actually causing whatever it is that it's happening. It is, me sitting here and Nairobi is hotter than it used to be. That should ring a bell. It is that woman in Turkana or that woman in Mandera who's not able to access school because the roads are impassable. We had the floods, and Garissa County was almost divided into two. It is those simple things that we interact with every day that is actually climate change. So for me, it's a matter of life and death, and the beauty is we can always do something within our capacity. It does not have to, trickle down from the governments, and our communities are already doing things. What we need to do is collaborate and ensure that you're not working in isolation.
And what are some of the findings that you found over the years when it comes to your research? You've been doing this for a long time now, and some of the key things that you'd like to share with us, maybe you could highlight 3?
Number one is I relish the opportunity to share my story. So platforms like this give an opportunity to share your story, to share what you are doing, what impact you're creating with the rest of the world. And the beauty is just by sharing your story, you can inspire someone who's stuck and maybe afraid to start their own journey. But number 2, it's also through these forums that we get collaborative opportunities to work on projects together. Funding for projects come from such forums. And lastly, it's an opportunity for partnerships, really, with the North-South. This forum is a Africa Urban Shift Forum, but we have other nationalities, outside of Africa also coming. These people can support us. We can work together when it comes to partnerships in research, partnerships in financing. So it is just a wealth of opportunities that is presented from this forum.
And lastly, as we wrap up, Juliet, there is a letter that I've seen all over the internet that you had put out. It's the open letter with a statement that you had about green jobs. That for me was very interesting. So I just want you to tell us more about it. What exactly is a green job, and how can we empower the youth to be able to make money through preserving and caring for the environment and taking action when it comes to climate change? So yeah, maybe you can highlight that for us.
Thank you for bringing that up, and I would highly encourage people to read that open letter as well, and to refer to C40 Cities for more information. But these are jobs that are resulting from implementing the green initiatives. C40 had the Green New Deal agenda that we have been pushing for quite a while now. And to give a practical example, we have Nairobi, cities, and Freetown in Sierra Leone. So I'll start with Sierra Leone. In Freetown, they have an initiative by their mayor of planting trees and cleaning the city, and they are employing young people to do this. It is a long partnership for, I think it's 3 years or so. Please refer to that also. It's it's about 3 years, but they are employing young people to actually take the initiatives in the planting of trees and also the cleaning of cities. But also good green jobs are not just the manual jobs. Yeah. We also have opportunities for good green jobs that are actually white collar. I know that will come at a lot. But also in Nairobi, we have seen that with our governor. He has been, championing for that. Not going to go into detail, but yeah, the green jobs are also available in Nairobi. It's simple to put in layman's language. When we are trying to conserve environment, but also creating opportunities while at it, then we are creating a good green job.
Thank you so much, Juliet. We appreciate your time. This has been such an important conversation. We do hope to see more people like you taking up this initiative to be able to fight for the climate, even in the sense research is just as important as it is as being on ground. So we really appreciate you and your time, and yeah, keep up the good effort, and we really hope to see more people like you. That was quite an interesting conversation there with Juliet regarding the environment, regarding how to be able to do the little that you can. And of course, we also got to know a little bit about what she has been up to with regards to saving and preserving this environment that we live in. Her story is quite inspiring because she mentioned that she was actually the youngest researcher, and the second youngest researcher in that particular room was 59 years of age. So it is quite a difference that you can make, and of course doesn't matter how old or young you are to care for the environment. As long as you have that passion, we can all be the late Wangari Maathai. Right, with that, it's time for us to sign out. Remember, we had asked you the question that is on the big why. The question is, what changes have you made in your daily life to be able to protect the environment? So I've got a couple of feedback that's come in, and this is actually from VMAC. Now VMAC amesema, wait, I'm just loading it on my phone. This is what he says. He has said, find alternative uses for your daily waste. For example, plastic bottle boxes, plastic packaging, etc. Do not use plastic. Use other alternative methods to be able to package your daily waste. That is quite interesting. Now, I'll give you a story. When I was in the UK, I lived there for 2 years, and we were trying to be as mindful as possible when it comes to conservation and when it comes to, your waste. So we were not using plastic bags, but instead we would actually pay extra to be able to separate our plastic. So there'd be an organic dustbin. There would actually be one dustbin for papers and another dustbin for food products. So this, and another one, for inorganic waste that is obviously plastic. So with the separation, you're actually able to make it easier for those who are disposing these trash, for those who are disposing the waste, and they're able to dispose the waste in a way that is not harmful for the environment and not just leave it hanging and causing pollution. So these are things that we were doing in the United Kingdom. Right now, I do understand that the system has come into play. I don't understand, and I'm not pretty sure, I don't have the details rather of exactly when it will be passed, but that's something that we have heard is going to be happening in the near future here in Kenya as well. There is a model that has been introduced into the market when it comes to waste disposal. We'll be finding out if it actually is implemented in the near future or how long it will actually take to be fully implemented. Apart from that, I've got another one that says water conversation. That's from Stuart, and this is something that is also very interesting. So try and save as much water as possible, because this is something that we don't really know if we'll be having access to. The future generations don't know if they will be having access to clean water in the coming years. Apart from that, I've got Ben, and Ben has said that making sure I always pick up the waste. If I'm on the street, I will pick up the waste and put it in a dustbin. So kudos to you, Ben. Keep that going. And lastly, I've got a message here from Peter. Now, Peter, who's tuned in from Muranga, has said that, hi, I try my level best to plant 5 trees in a month. And that is absolutely incredible because reforestation is the solution for deforestation. So please do make sure that you have an active involvement in planting as many trees as possible, because it doesn't have to be hundreds of trees. Even one tree a month can go a long way in preserving the environment. And that's it from us right here on The Green Fix on the Daily Report. I am Shiksha Arora. You're watching TV47. Our sign language interpreter has been Catherine Malloy. I'll be doing this next week on Thursday, same time, same place. Make sure you tune in and keep caring for the environment the way you care for your children, because at the end of the day, we are preparing and we are trying to create a more conservative, a more beautiful, a greener environment for the future generations to come. I'm Shiksha Arora. Good night.